Okay, so you're thinking about your question and it's a bit big. You've found something, you've thought of an idea, but right now it seems like this broad, enormous category. We're going to take a few steps to help us narrow it down, okay? And each step should help you whittle away at some of that extreme scope that you've got going on. So the first thing you want to think about is is the topic, and you've probably got a generic topic already associated with your question. You've probably decided that you're talking about theory of the firm, for example, if it's economics, or you were talking about a particular theory if it's psych. Now what you want to do is see, can we narrow that topic down a little bit? So you might, with your topic, start to bring it down and you might come to a question that looks something like the following. To what extent does an oligopolistic market have a negative impact on development? Now, this has a focused topic, but it's enormous. What market, development everywhere? You couldn't tackle this in 4,000 words. So we need to bring it down even further. And what we're going to do is we're going to use limiting factors to do that. So limiting factors are things that help you narrow that question. They might be things like picking a particular market, a focal point. It might be thinking about the topic. Can it be smaller? Might be thinking about narrowing it to a particular time period, thinking about a specific impact or effect. So with this question, some of the things we could start to narrow. Do we want to deal with oligopolistic markets as a whole or particular industry? Do we want to look at development worldwide, or do we just want to look at it in one region, one country, one village? Are we looking at all negative impacts or a particular negative impact? And so slowly you can see all the areas where that question can be brought down. Now, it's not just about that, okay? If we look at that, that might help us come to something that's a little bit more narrow, like limiting it to the pharmaceutical market in Indonesia. But we then need to think about feasibility. In your minds, you'll say, oh, I've got plenty of time and I'm going to spend my summer collecting data. It doesn't matter that it's going to be huge amounts of surveys or observation. I'm really passionate about the subject, and that's great. But you need to think about the realities of how much time you're actually going to spend doing this. So when you're thinking about that, think about, have your parents planned a trip overseas for the summer? Are you actually going to have a huge amount of IA work for another subject over the next term? You know, how much time are you actually going to have with your supervisor? All of these things play into it. And it's not just time that's a factor. You might be interested in a tiny little Indonesian village, but can you collect any data from that village? Do you know anyone? Are there contacts? Are they going to want to give you the data? If you're interested in running an experiment, we know there are already some challenges with that, but even if it's an approved one, do you have the resources that you need? Okay? If you want to run surveys, how many people are you actually going to get responses from? All of these things factor into feasibility. So after your limiting factors, we look at our feasibility factors. And our feasibility factors might also help us focus our question. For example, you might go, actually, I know a great person to talk to, or I've got a GC link in this particular community. I could look at a study about them. And that then helps us to focus our question down one step further to start looking at something more like this. I've got a community, I can talk to them. Having done that, you're able to generate the final question. So the final question might look something like this. To what extent is the oligopolistic nature of the pharmaceutical market impacting on life expectancy in this village? Okay, so it's now much more specific. And I'm not saying this is even the most specific it could be. You could really probably make this a little bit smaller, and you could be looking at specific effects of this market, but it's a start. So what you're going to do now in your groups, you're going to start. One person's going to propose the question, the next person's going to start narrowing it down, and you're going to go through, and the final fourth person is going to reframe the question in a narrower format. See how you go.